Well, this is exciting. I mean, I know, esteemed legal mind, one of the most esteemed legal minds in America, right? Former assistant U.S. attorney, legal rock star, analyst on MSNBC. But, you know, every little girl remembers the first time they were jingled. Having a nerdgasm of epic proportions right now. One of my legal ladies, because Maya Wiley today.
Wiley super genius.
Nephe's out of sight with Maya.
How do you do,
I'm on dynamite with Maya.
Mrs. Wiley?
Via satellite, it's Maya Wiley.
Yeah.
Good morning, Maya Wiley.
Good morning, Stephanie Miller.
There's your new ringtone. I want to hear that on Ari's show at least once a week.
I'm just going to text you during Ari's show.
I'll be on tonight. I'll suggest it, but I think you're more likely to get Jay-Z.
Probably. Yeah.
Maya, wow. So much I can't. I was reading a tweet. This is like Dick Cheney shooting someone in the face every day for 3 years and no one's doing anything about it. I mean, like,
the good news here is there is something being done about it.
Right. Mm-hmm. But legally, what do you think when you wrap your legal mind around watching Donald Trump yell a felony live on television? That it not just, yes, I ordered the code red with Ukraine, and I'm ordering it right now with China.
Well, my brain goes straight to, wow, glad I'm not his defense attorney. He just admitted to a crime in public. If I'm on the other side, I'm thinking what I would actually pay to do that cross-examination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you just tweeted, because we were just talking about this, about the vote, because Chris, you were saying this is kind of in the right-wing fever swamp. They're trying to make a big deal out of it. They haven't voted yet.
It's getting some traction in right-wing media. And so to me, it was just a little concerning. And I don't know much about whether a vote needs to be taken or not, so maybe we can get your insight on that.
Well, you just tweeted, Dems have enough to authorize the vote thanks to Trump and Giuliani omissions and vulgar text just add fuel to a raging fire. Impeachment articles are inevitable. Tell us your take on all that.
Well, I think the demand for a vote is frankly just a distraction into silly procedural questions that aren't very real. And when I say they're not very real, I mean the Judiciary Committee, as well as Senate, as well as House Intel and Oversight, have already said they're in inquiry mode. And you have an inquiry, you have a process in the appropriate committees before you get to a House vote. It's the committee's job to make a recommendation to the members of the House. If you remember, when Clinton went through this process, the House Judiciary Committee went into closed-door sessions. They actually didn't make any evidentiary findings. All they did was send a request to Clinton to make a bunch of admissions, literally called a request for admissions. And they relied on the Starr report itself. They didn't really do a lot of independent investigation. And then they just sent it up to the House for its vote on articles of impeachment. So so even when the Republicans were in control of the House during the Clinton impeachment, it wasn't as if they were running around demanding that there couldn't be a House judiciary process unless there was a vote, and that somehow you couldn't make an ask of a sitting president for information in order for it to make that determination unless it had already voted on whether it was going to send up articles of impeachment. Just think about that. It's like, if you got arrested, would you have to give evidence before you go to trial? Would there be some process, or would you just be asked to be tried first? That's kind of what they're saying.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah, speaking of getting a good defense attorney, Jed tweeted, page 8 of the text, Taylor, are we saying that Ukraine security assistance and White House meeting are conditioned on a Biden investigation? Soundland, call me. I would advise them to call a good defense attorney and cooperate. I don't know if you've read any of these texts, but I mean, the fact that they almost exactly reflect the transcript and the whistleblowers complained. I mean,
well, look, this is the point, and just to go back to the earlier question, the evidence is already clear and in public view. This isn't a case in which we don't have or know what the evidence is sufficient to establish articles of impeachment.
Right. Okay.
We already, so that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit silly in exactly what you're saying about these text messages. The president admitted in public that he held up military aid voted by Congress, bipartisan support. He admitted he did that. He admitted that Giuliani's job was to go there, and Giuliani admitted that he was going to get those investigations on Biden reopened. We even learned yesterday, in addition to these text messages, that on a call with China, not only did, back in June, so not only did Donald Trump publicly ask for election interference from the Chinese yesterday in his favor and to benefit him, he, in a call in June, had raised China investigating Biden, explicitly talking about election prospects, and even raising Elizabeth Warren and the fact that she was rising in the polls. That makes it so crystal clear that this is a president using the power of the office to the detriment of national security to advance his own personal interests. That's called impeachable.
Yeah.
Is it legally more parts quid, pro, or quo? Or just what percentages are we in? Maya, speaking of you just talked about the China call. Obviously, the mind reels at what's on Putin and MBS calls. But we keep talking about the Ukraine rough transcript and how sketchy it is that it clearly is not the entire conversation. I think I've asked this before, but I don't know if it's clear. Can we subpoena that server? What is going to legally? What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, look, the House is fully within its legal rights to ask for the full full record there. I mean, the issue becomes a political one, right? This is less of a legal question, a political one. So the issue for the Democrats is we already have. They can already form articles of impeachment on obstructing Congress, which is in and of itself an impeachable offense. In fact, it was one of the articles of impeachment against Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And so if you consider what's happening with obstruction, you have Pompeo, who himself is a fact witness and possible participant, saying explicitly and apparently bullying State Department staff around participation and responding to congressional requests. The problem that the Democrats have is their best avenue to get it is through the courts, which traditionally the courts can move quickly if they decide to, but they risk how long a process could take if courts won't expedite. And since they have sufficient evidence, including that transcript, I mean, what we do know, I can't even imagine what's in the other 20 minutes, because what we have in the call summary, it's not a transcript, but the call summary is already a smoking gun.
This is a legal term, but because they're morons, do you think? I mean, who thought that this was exculpatory? I mean, were you shocked that they released this?
Well, I'm glad they released it because it was the right thing to do, because they were actually paying attention to what you're supposed to do in government, which is be transparent. So I don't want to beat them up for doing what they should have done. But it absolutely, I have no clue why they thought this was exculpatory. I can't even imagine what the conversations were, but there is, if you think about what Donald Trump did yesterday, it's almost as if they think the more we admit to violating the law, the more we might convince people we're not violating the law.
Yeah.
Because people will actually think no one is going to publicly just admit to crime repeatedly. It must not be a crime. That's the only crass. I mean, that's a horrible. That's a horrible thing to think, because it so deeply undermines in a whole other way our rule of law. And I think that's what we have to focus on here. Is you cannot have the President of the United States essentially unraveling the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law and think that we're okay.
But it's like they're just saying, what are you going to do about it? I mean, Travis just handed me this. Russian witness thrown from a window after his name was exposed by Trump Tower lobbyist. A witness taking part in the U.S. trial aimed at Russian corruption who fell from a window reportedly had his name exposed.
By Veselinskaya.
Yeah.
I mean, we feel like we're fully in mob land. Like, and I know you and your fellow legal ladies have said how much of this stuff like mirrors stuff you've heard on actual mob phone calls and transcripts, right?
Yeah, but I would take it a step farther. I mean, certainly mob behavior, and there's Trump has a history, as we heard from Michael Cohen, of mob behavior. It's not even just what we're hearing now, but it's a long history of what we're hearing from folks who are close to him. But it's more than that. It's not just being a mob boss in this case, because if you're a mob boss, you're actually not sitting on top of institutions of government. Donald Trump is more than a mob boss.
Yeah.
He is a would-be monarch or dictator.
Well, it's terrifying that he has the Attorney General and the Secretary of State of the United States of America flying around the world pressuring foreign governments, on behalf of the president for dirt on his political opponents. Like, your piece could not have been better. The impeach William Barr. I mean, all of them. But the fact that and you make such a reasoned case, as you always do, that you can take one case after another where he really is like just the president's mob lawyer.
Well, this is part of the perversion of our democracy, is that Donald Trump is perverting the institutions that make up our democracy and the way they are supposed to function. I think that's why I want to say this is so much more serious. But look, I am a possibilist, meaning I think I have a lot of hope in the possibility of how our institutions are holding. When we see a Trump-appointed Inspector General for the National Intelligence Community doing exactly what the institution is supposed to do without regard to the fact that he was appointed by Donald Trump, that is important. That's called the institution holding. When we see the IG from the IRS and the whistleblower process in the IRS now moving through what are the appropriate channels, what we're seeing is our democratic institutions working. So as much as we're seeing the ways in which it is being attacked and undermined by Donald Trump, we're also seeing the ways in which the functioning of independent oversight is working. And that includes Congress is now working. That's good. The Senate will be, obviously the place to watch. But, from my perspective, as long as the truth keeps coming out, independent oversight keeps doing its job, there is a lot of hope here that that as stretched thin as these institutions are, and as challenged as they are by their leadership at the top, that we are seeing the institutions holding some line.
And you have to hope more people are going to be scrambling to get on the right side of the law and the right side of history. Real quick, Maya, the other headline, New York prosecutors say the DOJ is trying to shield Trump in the tax return case.
Yes.
So just get real quick on that.
Well, we need to see the filings. I think Harry Littman and I have been having an exchange on Twitter about this, because he wrote a piece saying if they get involved in trying to stop the investigation, that's a different story than if they're just making kind of procedural arguments about about the Constitution. And on one level, I think Harry's absolutely right. We have to see what the arguments are, and it's important that we all slow down and not get ahead of ourselves. On the other hand, this is not normal. There's nothing normal about this. This was simply a request for documents, for tax returns. It was a president who, it was not what Donald Trump was doing as president. It was for tax returns filed before he was president, and for acts that were criminal at the time, in which the same office, the Southern District of New York, called individual one, Donald Trump, and essentially an unindicted co-conspirator, not in word, but by implication. So to turn around and suggest that an investigation can't go forward. Remember, in state courts can hear and make constitutional determinations, and it can be appealed to the Supreme Court. So as far as I can tell, I don't see the legitimate normal issue. Maybe I won't say legitimate, but I don't see the normalcy in the office getting engaged in this at this stage and in this way.
Yeah. It just seems every legal argument that they make is that the president's above any
Right.
any law ever.
Yes.
More importantly, real quick before you go, you tweeted that you're going to be at Politicon with some of your sisters-in-laws.
Yeah.
I'm going to be Kristen Wiig in the Slumber Party sketch every day until the end of
Yeah.
October. I'm having dinner with Jill Wine-Banks. If all y'all legal ladies join us, I'm never gonna. Oh my God! I'm not gonna sleep until Politicon in Nashville the last week in October. I can't wait to see you.
I can't wait to see you.
All right, don't freak out. Don't tell security. It's going to be me running toward you. All right. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. Have
All
a
right, see you at
wonderful
Politicon.
weekend.
Okay,
Take care.
bye-bye. Okay, yeah, she's still going to call security
Yeah.
because I've never met her
Totally.
in person. That's going to be over. That's going to be too much for me. Okay.